Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about minor tonality and some ways that we can solo over minor chords. We're talking specifically about minor songs that are in a minor key, so talking about a minor 1 chord, resolutions to minor chords, not necessarily just any minor chord. Like in a 2-5-1 progression, we have 2 minor 7, 5 7, 1 major 7. The 2 chord is minor in that case, but it's passing and leading you to a resolution. It's not the resolution itself. So we're talking about how to approach songs that are in minor keys, minor 1 chords, minor resolutions. The reason for this really quickly is that if you ask somebody, how do I solo over a major 7th chord, apart from the good advice, of course, of use the melody to solo, come up with good musical ideas and things like that. From a technical standpoint, what notes work over a chord? You're going to hear major chord, major 7th arpeggio. You could say Lydian mode as well. There's lots of other answers too, but really the big answer you're probably going to hear first is use a major scale for a major chord. Now, if you were to ask, what should I play over a minor 7th chord that's a 1 chord, you might hear the answer natural minor scale, Dorian mode, harmonic minor, melodic minor, jazz minor, which is essentially the same thing as melodic minor, which we'll talk about. There's not really one answer to that, and there's not one answer for the major 7th chord either, but there are more possibilities on paper and theoretically for beginners and intermediate players when we're thinking about theory and ear training over minor resolutions. So what we're going to do is hopefully by the end of this video you'll be hearing some of these things. I'm going to play some examples over a minor blues. I'm going to use Equinox as an example. I just recorded a couple choruses of comping with the bass line on my 7-string on a looper. And I'm going to be, in a minor blues, I'll put the chord progression in the video description as well. But the 1 chord is minor, the 4 chord is minor, and I'm going to be using each scale that we're talking about over those 2 chords in the song, since that's the majority of the chord progression in a minor blues. So let's start with the Dorian mode, and I'll explain why. I'll explain why afterwards. As I'm going to just start the loop and play the scale up and down over a chorus or so and explain the notes as we're playing them. And after that, I'll just improvise a bit with the scale. It's just as an exercise. I would not usually recommend only use this one scale over this 1 chord. The whole idea of assigning a chord or assigning a scale to a chord is really nice on paper, but it doesn't really create musical solos. And that's when we need to start, use the melody, know the melody, come up with good musical ideas and all of that. So this is for an ear training standpoint that I'm just going to be sticking to 1 scale over a chord. And for this first example, it'll be Dorian. So in the Dorian mode, we have 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, and then 1 again. The natural 6th is the distinctive note in this. Everything has a minor 3rd if it's minor. So that's the flat 3rd. It wouldn't be minor if it didn't have a flat 3rd. If I played the major 3rd instead, it's not minor anymore. It sounds good in that case based on where I played it, and I might explain that later. But we get that dissonance there. So that natural 6th is kind of the distinctive note of the Dorian mode. And that's the flat 6 of F sharp. And then that's the natural 6th. I think I said flat 6th. So that's the first example. Again, not just me soloing creatively, just to try to land on that sixth as much as possible. Next will be the natural minor scale. Oh, I'm sorry. One last thing. The Dorian mode is a scale. It is a minor scale. If you don't know about modes already, I should explain this, that a mode is a scale that is contained within another scale. So if we are in the key of C major and play C to C, then that's a C major scale. If we play still in C major, if we start on D and end on D, then it's going to be D Dorian. And it's the order of the intervals creates a minor scale, but it's a scale that's contained within C major. C major is the parent scale. So if you hear the word mode, that's always referring to something that is contained within another scale, but it's a scale itself. So in this case, C sharp Dorian. If I started that scale off of, instead of C sharp, off of B, those are all the same notes, and now it sounds like I'm playing B major. But if I start off of C sharp, which is the second degree of the scale, then it sounds like I'm playing over C sharp minor, and specifically over C sharp minor 6. Or minor 13th if you have the 7th in the chord as well. Okay, next one is natural minor. Natural minor is the same as Dorian if we're thinking about what notes are in the scale, except the 6th is not natural, the 6th is flat. Natural minor is also a mode of the major scale, although usually people don't refer to it as a mode. It's the 6th mode of the major scale. If you play any major scale and start on the 6th note and end on the 6th note, it'll sound like a natural minor scale, and that's what it is. If we think of it referring to back over to the major scale, like with flat intervals to describe it, we have flat third, because like I said, any minor scale, minor arpeggio, minor chord has to have a flat third to be a minor tonality or a minor chord quality or whatever. It has a flat 7, just like Dorian, and it has a flat 6 instead of natural 6th. And now as I start the loop, I'm going to try to land on the flat 6, and you're going to hear it doesn't really want to stay there. When I do it over F sharp minor or C sharp minor, the 4 chord and the 1 chord, when I land on the flat 6, it's not like Dorian where you can sit on that note and have it be like pleasingly colorful. It's a note that you want to move off of, generally speaking. Anything can sound good. You can make anything sound good, but you'll hear what I mean. So let me give an example with natural minor here. So still 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6. And here it sounds fine because we were just about to go to the 4 chord. So let me wait till it's back to 1. It's not really a note you want to be staying on. Flat 6. There's the flat 6 in F sharp minor, not one that really sounds pleasing to sit on. Here it sounds fine because it matches the chord. Flat 6 there, again a little dissonant. So I would say minor, the natural minor scale, it has a distinctive sound. Everything has a distinctive sound in some way, but it doesn't really have one note that makes it distinctive, in my opinion. The flat 6th is distinctive in that if you land on it, it's very dissonant and it doesn't really want to stay there. But if you play the whole scale in order, it's kind of a plain sounding scale. And that'll make more sense, I think, as well when we go to the next scale, which has a natural 7th. And let me give you an example of that before I even start the loop. Harmonic and melodic minor, we can both kind of talk about in the same way because they, again, have a flat third, they're minor scales, but they have natural sevenths, or in other words, major sevenths. And that sound, let's do melodic minor. That note, that's what our ear wants to hear when we hear this note. We want it to resolve to the root of the one chord. When we combine all of them, we get what's called a minor major 7 chord. So we have root, flat third, fifth, and natural seventh. And we could even go to, between the two, we would have the major 7th and then the major 6th or the natural 6th. So let me give an example with this on the loop. One quick thing I should mention is that this is melodic minor, but not technically speaking. Melodic minor, this isn't really important for improvisation, but for theory, or if you're planning on becoming a musician and need to take tests on theory or playing, you do have to know this. Melodic minor is ascending the way I just played it. But going back down, it's not the same thing as going up. Going back down in traditional melodic minor, you have to play natural minor going back down. So we would get normal going up and natural going down. Now, here's the thing about that, is that if any of you have listened to Bach or studied classical music, and I'm mentioning Bach because Baroque period, extremely famous composer with really great music. He's breaking that rule all the time. And this is hundreds of years ago, in 1600s, 1700s, 1685 to 1750 is when he was alive. But before that too, I mean, these rules are not rules in such a way that we have to always follow them, but we do have to know how to play it if you have a jury in college, or identify it on paper in a theory class or something like that. So a lot of the times what people call this scale, if you play melodic minor and don't change the descending version, is jazz minor. I'm not a huge fan of renaming scales like that. It has its place, of course, but really this is a melodic minor sound. To call it jazz minor is nice to know. You'll probably have to know this in school as well. But this is a melodic minor sound. Even I know some people would argue that the descending version isn't melodic minor sound if you don't switch to natural minor, but that's kind of a different topic, but that's just my opinion on it. So I'm not going to be altering it going back down. This is going to be jazz minor if we want to think of it that way, but melodic minor, the same forwards and backwards. So we have 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And an F sharp. 1, 2, 3, 4. The flat 3. I'll get to it when it comes around next. Seven, 6. Sorry, that's harmonic. Very distinctive, and it does sound like we want to resolve that note, but we don't have to. It's dissonant, but it might, a lot of people like that sound. But that's the resolution that our ear is really used to. Now, real quickly, the reason why I was tying harmonic minor into that is because it also has a natural seventh. It just has a flat 6 as well. So what we have, up to that point, we would guess that that's natural minor. But then we have the natural seventh as well, or the major seventh. If you just hear this scale by itself, a lot of people describe this as, since we hear it in this context a lot in movies and whatnot, as like an Arabian sound. If we take the top part of the scale, 5, flat 6, 7, and 1, then it's that kind of stereotypical, we hear that a lot in movie music and things like that. But it's very distinctive, and it's actually something that ends up being played over altered dominant if we're thinking of it in that way. I'll use it like that to demonstrate it, but first let me just play the scale so you can hear it over the harmony. 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, natural 7th, and an F sharp. 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, and 7. So, let's see, if we have this, sorry, that's Dorian. Kind of going back to whatever I went to. I need to stop doing that and stay strict here. I'll do it another chorus. That's harmonic minor. So I hope this is helpful. The point of this, again, if anyone would like some just general ideas of soloing over a minor blues, let me know. I'd be happy to actually, use this loop. I saved it so I can come back to it and just like solo over it creatively. So I could do that and like explain what I'm playing afterwards or something, if you would just like some freeform ideas on how to solo over a minor blues. But this is more about just those options that we have over a minor chord, not just over a minor blues. We're talking about any minor song. If you're playing Alone Together, Beautiful Love, or any minor song. I will be making a separate video on maybe the next one on minor keys and how the 2-5-1 is different. This example I thought was good to use Equinox or a minor blues because we don't really have those cadences dictating some of the note choices by having a 2-5-1 where the 1 is minor, but the 2 chord is different than a major 2-5-1 if the 1 is minor, and the 5 chord is treated kind of differently in some situations as well if the 1 chord is minor. So again, I'll put the chords in the description. If you missed that earlier and you don't know the chords to a minor blues, I'll put them in C sharp since that's what I'm playing. And I think that's it. There are other scales that you can use over minor chords. Just in terms of the modes, Phrygian is minor. It's just like natural minor, but it has a flat 2. That's the 3rd mode of the major scale. Locrian is the 7th mode. It has a diminished kind of sound because it has flat 2 and flat 5 in addition to the other ones. And that's just dealing with that. There are also modes of the melodic minor scale, modes of the harmonic minor scale. Modes are not only part of the major scale, they're part of any scale. You can have a mode of any scale. And some of the ones that are really nice are modes of melodic minor and harmonic minor. So I don't want to make it sound like those are not options. These are just like some of the really common things that you're going to be hearing and some really good ones to get your ears used to. So I would also recommend, as one last thing, sorry, the videos always go on long. So if you're here this long, congratulations, is to just record it or get a tone generator. If you can hold a chord in some way, record yourself just playing a triad. It has to be a triad, or you could do minor 7th too. And just play the triad essentially and play the scale over the triad. So as this is being repeated, just treat it like a metronome. And then as you're doing that, play the scale over it. And as you're doing that, so if we have sorry. You can kind of evaluate how those how the notes relate to the chord, and what's dissonant, what's consonant, and what's dissonant that you can live with, that you like the sound of, and what's dissonant that you don't like the sound of. Your tastes will change over time. Melodic minor over a minor seventh chord in particular, if you have the flat seventh and the natural seventh at the same time, it's definitely dissonant, but our ears get used to those sounds, and they're actually really nice. So, not all dissonance is nice sounding, but your ears grow over time. So even if you're not into some of these sounds, it's definitely worth investing in time-wise if you are interested in learning jazz and jazz guitar. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. And have a great day. If you like this content, please subscribe. People watching it definitely motivates me to do the videos, because the point is definitely to get people playing jazz. I'd like to do some like advanced content in the future too, but so if you have any requests for stuff like that, let me know. Right now the focus is definitely beginner, intermediate, and like some advanced things too. But the more people playing jazz guitar, the better for sure. So all right, thanks for watching. Have a good time practicing, and I'll see you next time.